Director for the Market Data Services Group. And what I'm here to talk about today is a new product that we've developed, which is based on the Power BI platform, which provides online access to our market research data. There's two components to this product. One is the market research data that we gather and use as our study publications, where we provide online access to the market reports, and there's well over 100 that we produce per year. Along with that, we provide contextual analysis alongside of the data. And then with each of these online publications, you get a H1 and an H2 forecast updates on selective primary core studies. And then you also get supplier profiles. Secondly, with the online access, you get economic research data, which we use as fundamentally to, a lot of our secondary research is based on this research data. So what we do is provide it to our customers in an online access in a report fashion on a number of industries, whether it's aerospace, food and beverage, automotive, and about a dozen others. And then we provide regional analysis on large groupings of regions, whether it's Asia, EMEA, North America, and Latin America. And in some cases, we provide very specific country analysis, which includes the industrial GDP, and which has both the industrial GDP, which is that manufacturing GDP, which is related to a lot of the research reports that we cover. And then we have the historical trends, which is all the historical GDP by each of the countries or the regions. So let's jump right into the demonstration of the report. Let me switch to the online view of the report. Sorry, I switched the wrong window. There we go. So what we're looking at here is actually the cover page for one of the market reports in the online access. This is the Power BI platform, and this is what you would see if you purchased a subscription to this particular product. So just to give you an idea, every customer has a group of studies that they have accessible to them, depending on their purchase. And as ARC, I have basically the entire research material that goes back to the year 2000. So I'm going to switch this to 2019. It's an AC inverted study. It's as simple as that. I can select any currency I want to work in, whether it's yen, US dollar. It's very easy to switch. And you can see kind of a sense of how the currencies have evolved over time from a historical perspective. And we use these historical currencies because when we start to provide you with historical data, we'll have to scale the data by those historical values. So typically you'd enter your online access to a particular report, see in the cover page who the author is, any kind of contact information. And then also you can see that there's a revision number allowing us to track what date the particular report was published on. And so we get a good sense of not a good sense, we can track exactly how the data was published, what data you're working with, and we'll have the ability to track some of the associated underlying forecasting growth rate assumptions and things of that nature. So every report has a table of contents. When you go online, it has an executive summary, an overview of the report, what it contains from a scope perspective, and in fact tells you what it's excluded from the report. The executive summary would typically go into what happened in this base year, what are the market dynamics, what's going on in the regional markets, and what are some of the highlights in the industries in that particular year. Then you would quickly go into the overview if you're not familiar with the report. What's the scope of the content? What type of products are included, what industries are included, and what strategic value. Every report's going to be a little bit different. Then you can start to drill down into some of the other type of trend information that we provide with each report. What are the market trends? And we have a selection of, depending on the author, what they'll provide is what are the drivers behind what are the trends that are driving this particular market, and you can look at them by what the name of the trend is, and then some detailed information. Then you have the access to the scope definitions for the particular report. So you can look at what the world region definitions are. So this particular report has, at a high level, has segments of world region, industries, some revenue category, machineries by segment, configuration, which is defined all here. And then what you want to do is look at the drill down of within each of those high-level segments, what their definitions are. So you have quick access to those definitions right here at your fingertips when you're reviewing the report, and you can selectively pick and choose which segment you want to look at and clarify the description of that particular segment. So that's all the information is readily accessible to you there. Now, typically, what somebody who's really interested in is market share analysis and forecasting analysis. In this report, we provide very quick access to the market share analysis, and you can pick it by segment using these slicers. So let me clear out these slicers, and we can go and see any segment that you want to switch to can be quickly switched over here. Now, when I was talking about earlier on about contextual analysis, let me clear that up a bit. What you have here is the market share analysis for this world region, and let's just maybe pick the Asia region. So what we have here is the market shares. And on the right, we have the analysis that the analyst will provide. And it's not repeating the data, but it's adding color to the data. It's providing the whys. Why is ABB a leader in this market? Why is Mitsubishi strong in the Asia region? And you'll get the discussion by the category here, which is the Asia region, and you'll also get the discussion by the overall region. Now you can go to any one of the segments, and let's look at let's say drive size. It's always an interesting one. So you might want to look at mega drives. Why is what are some of the dynamics going on in the mega drives? It's then the micro drives. Each one of these will have some commentary on what's going on in this particular market. So that's the idea of contextual analysis alongside of the data. We're no longer just repeating what the data is, but we're actually analyzing it and providing you a level of information that goes beyond the data. Now in the forecasting, you can see you have your traditional analysis by the segments. So you can, once again, look at each of the major segments and look at how the growth is for the overall business. So you can look at the overall market. You can see this is a market that's grown at 1.21%. We have some commentary on what's going on in this market. And, that's the idea of, once again, contextual analysis right alongside your data. So we no longer separate out the data in the text. Now you can even drill down further into each of the categories. So whether it's in the, let's go back to drive size, there's a little more color there. And we get a sense of how these markets are growing. And we also have some commentary on why these markets are growing at such and such a rate. So you can just drill down to an individual segment, or look at the entire group at once. And then in this view, you can start to analyze some of the growth rates. And here, You can look at individual industries. You can look at all of them at the same time, or pick and choose combinations. It's really up to you. But once again, you get commentary on what's going on in the market, and you get your visuals on the overall trend data. So the other elements within this report are, what are the drivers, what is inhibiting growth? And these are all the factors. We have a level 0 here that we use a lot for summary, but here are the individual topics that we have used to analyze this particular market and what's driving growth. And we also have the inhibitors. Same idea. You can look at the topics and quickly get to the information that you're interested in. So that's pretty much sums up the availability of what's inside of our first launch of the market data service product. Like I said, you also get supplier profiles. This particular report may not include some, but basically these are the suppliers that we include in the report. We give you a link to their primary website where associated with the product group in this report. And in some cases, we won't necessarily profile all the suppliers, but we certainly provide some limited information on each of the individual suppliers that are in this particular report. So you can read about them, understand their business. And over time, we'll continue to expand upon these profiles as we already have launched a more detailed profile analysis, but it happens not to be in this particular publication of the report. Finally, if you want to work on the data on your own, you can export it to an Excel workbook come into a Excel table, and then you can start to work on this in your own. So you can export these workbooks into any type of table format that you want, okay, particularly in Excel, and then start to work on it in your own time. So that is basically a summary of this particular product, which is the market research data. Now, from an economic analysis standpoint, I mentioned that we have economic analysis, and we provide coverage on these primary industries from aerospace, all the way down to semiconductor, some regional analysis on each of the major regions. So we talk about the highlights, some detailed analysis, and the industrial GDP. And I'll give you a little flavor of what these individual reports look like. So this is a typical layout of how we would present the information. What's the overview of the industry? How is the industry structured? And then we would drill down into some of the interesting things some of the things you might be interested in is the revenue development in this particular industry over time. And also some of the CapEx developments that we see in this particular market. And we use a lot of this data actually to develop our forecasting. And then we provide some outlook that we see in these particular industries. So, and then alongside of it, once again, is contextual information. So you have the data and context. And so you can see you can do quite a few things here on this environment, on this platform to expand the visuals. It's quite flexible. So let me go back to that was our industry analysis, but here you might want to start to look at some of the regional analysis. So we standardize on what we talk about in each of the regions in terms of economics, political factors, socio-cultural factors, and resources. But we may expand it over time. And then you get a sheet here which talks about the particular region. You get the GDP trends, so you get a chart for the GDP, the industrial GDP over time. And then you also get the GDP broken down by the major industries that are included in this particular GDP. So that, And then I'll just show you a little bit on the individual countries. Occasionally, we will have some limited country analysis, which will, once again, show the GDP from a historical perspective and the industrial GDP, along with the commentary on this particular region. So that really sums up what we're doing in the arena of putting an online data online, accessible to our customers, and provided as a subscription service. Well, thank you very much for listening.